Okay, good morning and welcome everyone. My name is Mark de la Iglesia. I'm from the Open Society Foundations, and I'm very pleased to be moderating this session today on this crowded stage. We do have some logistical complications this morning. We've got a crowded stage and some translation, so please make sure if you haven't already, go grab some translation equipment because we'll have some French and Slovak being spoken today. Well, first of all, I just want to take a moment to give thanks because if we take a second and step back, we realize it's Friday, we're in Paris, and of course it's International Anti-Corruption Day. Which, yes, I think that's worthy of applause, yes. No, in all seriousness, though, this is a day for us to remind ourselves of the brutal costs of corruption around the world in terms of how it undermines citizen trust in government, how it fritters away taxpayer dollars, how it leads to public services not being provided, and literally in some cases lives being lost. So we're here today to lift up those efforts and recommit ourselves to those efforts to fight corruption, and that's what brings us here today on this panel. We have a distinguished panel today of senior government officials from OGP countries, as well as civil society and business representatives. And they've come ready to discuss new initiatives that they're pushing forward on the fight against corruption, some through the OGP process and others outside, but closely related and in parallel with the process. We'll be hearing about these initiatives, we'll engage in a bit of discussion, and hopefully also have some time for questions from you. Before I introduce the panel, though, let me just set the stage with some brief observations about the linkage between anti-corruption and OGP, which we're all here to celebrate this week. First of all, we're obviously living in a time of massive citizen demand for action on corruption. This fairly obvious point, but in the last few years, we've seen literally governments fall based on citizen outrage on corruption. And some of those governments, like Nigeria and Sri Lanka, the subsequent governments that replaced the ones that fell have joined OGP. Of course, we've also seen this in Ukraine, Guatemala, Iceland. And these are just the most extreme examples. But of course, in Brazil, the issue of corruption now ranks as the top concern for citizens in public opinion polls. And that's for the first time in polling history in that country. So this is clearly a crucial area where citizens want their governments to respond. And second, we've seen what has been, if we're honest with ourselves, only a modest emphasis on anti-corruption in OGP. I think the data shows that around 7% of the commitments that have been made through OGP are related to anti-corruption. Many meaningful ones, but arguably a lot more could be done. Now, I think this is changing, though. This year, we saw the London Anti-Corruption Summit, where 32 OGP countries attended, made a wide range of anti-corruption commitments, and also pledged to embed those commitments in their OGP national action plans. And several countries have done that. We're going to hear from one representative of a country today that did that, from Nigeria. And finally, we're also seeing that pursuing anti-corruption efforts through OGP turns out to be one of the best ways to raise the level of ambition in OGP action plans. So some recent data from the IRM, which is the OGP's kind of research and data hub, shows that OGP commitments that have an anti-corruption focus tend to be rated more likely to have a transformative impact than other kinds of OGP commitments. So I've heard a lot of talk this week about the need to raise the ambition of the Open Government Partnership, and I think it's worth noting that one way to do that, frankly, is just to increase the focus and attention on anti-corruption. So these are some reasons why a new OGP working group has been formed on anti-corruption in the last several months. Transparency International is leading that group along with the governments of the UK, Brazil, and Georgia. So look out for their activities and do try to get engaged. But with that context in mind, let me introduce our esteemed panelists. We have three senior government officials from OGP countries here. Michel Sapin, the Minister of the Economy and Finance from France. Welcome. We have Zainab Ahmed, the Minister of State for Budget and National Planning from Nigeria. And we have Lucia Zitnianska, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Justice from the Slovak Republic. Welcome. We also have Elena Panfilova, the Vice Chair of Transparency International's Board of Directors, and Andrew Yule from Thomson Reuters. Thanks so much for being here. So let me pull this up so I can actually see you. So in the interest of time, I'm going to ask you to keep your responses to around 3 minutes if you can, so we can do our best to get to audience questions at the end. Let me start with Minister Ahmed of Nigeria. So as I mentioned earlier, at the London summit, Nigeria joined the OGP and also committed to several new anti-corruption reforms. Now you've just completed your first OGP action plan, congratulations on that, which includes 14 commitments and a whole bunch of milestones. And I'm wondering, which of these commitments are most important for the fight against corruption in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Mike, for the opportunity of being here. The Nigerian action plan for OGP is divided into 4 thematic areas. And one of these areas is the anti-corruption thematic area. We made a commitment to strengthen and continue to pursue the fight against corruption, which was a commitment that was made by our president even from the time he was campaigning to when he was elected. That has become one of the major thrusts of our administration. One of the major things we committed to is to continue to pursue asset recovery. There has been several recoveries that are possible for us to regain back, recoveries from crime, monies that have been stolen and taken out of our country. Some of these recoveries have reached stages where there are court decisions on them, and somehow the monies are not being released to us. So that's one major area we're pursuing. The president also made a commitment for Nigeria to establish a public register of beneficial ownership of corporate entities in Nigeria. That's a major commitment for us. Currently, we have just a Corporate Affairs Commission that is a register, but to be able to access information from that commission, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be registered, and you have to make an application and so on. So this is a very ambitious one for us because there are some limitations and some challenges that we have to overcome to be able to have that. The president also made a commitment that Nigeria will establish a public register of contracts, and that is very, very significant. We have some major contracts, especially contracts that have to do with the extractive industry businesses that we're seeking to make public so that everybody has access to those contracts, sees the commitments that have been made and be able to interrogate them. And also the president made, we made a commitment in our national action plan to set up a platform whereby the anti-corruption agencies that are operating in Nigeria will be able to share information and communicate with each other. So it will be a central portal, a database where all of the anti-corruption caseloads will be residing. And this is aspirational. We have to plan towards this and look at the best way to go about doing this. This is what we committed to in the National Action Plan. But in addition to that, there are a number of things that are doing that are also complementary to this. There is the public declaration of assets that is required by law for public officers to make. Not just senior public officers, but all public officers are required by law to declare their assets to a bureau that we call the Code of Conduct Bureau. You declare your assets when you're given an appointment, and then you declare your assets when your tenure is completed. The essence is to see the difference and to be able to interrogate how you acquire these assets. And this has been rigorously followed, and compliance is required by law.
Great. Thank you so much. That's a really ambitious set of commitments, and wish you luck in implementing them. I'd like to turn to Minister Sapin of France, but before I do so, I've been given a note that says channel 3 is Slovak translation. So I don't know if you would be more comfortable, Minister, just donning the headphones, you could do that. If you want to take a break, whatever you'd prefer. And the Slovak folks in the audience, channel 3 is what you'd listen to. Minister Sapin, just last month, a major new transparency and anti-corruption reform was enacted in France that bears your name. They call it Sapin 2. When you introduced the proposal last year, you said, quote, "In the fight against corruption, France cannot just satisfy itself with the existing situation." Can you tell us why you saw a need for change there and what this new reform would accomplish?
Oui, merci beaucoup de parler de ce texte auquel j'attache tellement d'importance que certains ont eu la gentillesse de lui donner mon propre nom. Ce texte, d'ailleurs, ça met toujours du temps à être débattu, a reçu hier l'avis favorable du Conseil constitutionnel. Donc aujourd'hui, c'est à la fois la journée de lutte contre la corruption dans le monde et le jour où aura été définitivement établie la loi luttant contre la corruption transnationale en France. C'est un texte très important. Pourquoi? Parce que la France est un pays qui dispose des mécanismes judiciaires, des outils lui permettant de lutter contre la corruption sur son propre territoire. Ça, c'était des textes qui ont plus de 20 ans. C'est efficace. Ça n'empêche jamais d'avoir des gens qui sont tentés ou des tentateurs. Mais on le voit, y compris très récemment, nous arrivons à repérer, à punir et à punir très lourdement dans ces cas-là. Donc le problème qui nous était posé, c'est la question de la corruption transnationale, celle qui, en quelque sorte, frappe les pays souvent les plus pauvres, les pays où des grandes entreprises françaises ou d'autres peuvent chercher à conquérir des marchés par des méthodes qui ne sont pas convenables ni moralement, ni socialement, ni politiquement, ni économiquement. Et c'est donc pour nous permettre d'avoir des outils juridiques nécessaires que cette loi a instauré à la fois un devoir de mettre en place dans toutes les grandes entreprises une mécanique pour informer, permettre de lutter efficacement au sein de l'entreprise contre des attitudes corruptrices. Et puis on donne des pouvoirs aussi aux juges français pour avoir plus de capacité pour repérer les faits, les poursuivre et condamner l'entreprise concernée. Pourquoi est-ce que ça n'était pas possible de rester en l'état? Je réponds à votre question. Pour une raison qui est assez simple. Aucune entreprise française n'avait été condamnée en France pour de faits de corruption à l'étranger. Aucune en France. Mais plusieurs avaient été condamnés aux États-Unis ou en Hollande pour des faits commis par cette entreprise française à l'étranger. Il y a quelque chose de choquant, y compris du point de vue, j'allais dire, de la fierté nationale et de la souveraineté nationale. Et il faut donc, et c'est le cas maintenant, que notre propre justice ait la capacité, dans de bonnes conditions, de repérer, discuter, débattre, punir, faire payer les amendes nécessaires et surtout, parce que c'est ça le plus important, obliger ces entreprises à mettre en œuvre des plans internes de prévention de la corruption. Et tout le volet prévention de la corruption est très important. Je n'ai pas besoin de revenir, vous l'avez dit, sur les effets absolument négatifs pour les pays concernés de ces attitudes corruptives. Moi, je veux que la France soit irréprochable. Plus que ça, non seulement irréprochable, mais je veux qu'elle soit exemplaire.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on that substantial reform. I'm going to turn to Minister Zitnianska, and let me make another logistical point that I had bad information. Channel 3 is Spanish, so you will continue to need your interpretation here and for the rest of the session. So, as I understand it, you have been one of the leading reformers behind some highly innovative approaches to open government in Slovakia. So this includes an open contracting reform that many of you may have heard about back in 2010, which requires procurement contracts to be published in order to be officially brought into legal force. And just last month, as I understand it, the Slovak parliament passed another innovative legislation, piece of legislation that you spearheaded on beneficial ownership transparency. Could you tell us more about this reform and why you chose the specific approach you did?
Ďakujem pekne. Áno, od roku 2011 zverejňujeme na Slovensku všetky zmluvy, ktoré uzatvára štát. It's okay?
You know, I'm sorry, we don't have live translations. May I ask you to do consecutive? Oh, it's on one. Sorry. Okay, please
It's
go
okay?
ahead. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. Od roku 2011 zverejňujeme na Slovensku všetky zmluvy, ktoré uzatvára štát. To znamená, poznáme, ako vyzerajú obchody, ktoré robí štát. A tento rok sme prijali nový zákon, ktorý má zabezpečiť to, aby sme vedeli aj to, s kým štát zmluvy uzatvára. Každý, kto bude chcieť, ak to mám zjednodušiť, uzatvárať na Slovensku zmluvu so štátom, bude musieť povedať, kto je jeho konečný užívateľ výhod. Kto bude chcieť obchodovať so štátom, bude sa musieť registrovať v osobitnom registri partnerov verejného sektora a pred tým zápisom vlastne preukázať, kto je jeho konečný užívateľ výhod. Máme tam aj isté verifikačné mechanizmy, či už banky, alebo advokáti, alebo auditori musia potvrdiť firme, že áno, tie údaje sú verifikované, ale samozrejme na to sa nedá spoľahnúť, preto každý, kto bude mať dostatok dokladov o tom, že pravdepodobne tá firma nehovorí pravdu a nezapísala do registra konečného užívateľa výhod, tak bude môcť vlastne tú firmu napadnúť pred súdom a pred súdom bude musieť firma preukázať, kto je naozaj tým konečným užívateľom výhod. Je to veľmi tvrdá právna úprava, My pritom vychádzame z toho, že nie je ľudské právo obchodovať so štátom, ale štát má právo vedieť, s kým obchoduje. Je to právna úprava, ktorá začne platiť budúci rok. Takže o rok alebo o dva vám môžem povedať skúsenosť. V každom prípade som presvedčená o tom, že dôvera v štát a v štátne inštitúcie vyžaduje maximálnu mieru transparentnosti. A keď chceme bojovať proti podozreniam, že štát robí obchody so svojimi kamarátmi alebo priateľmi, tak to nevieme robiť inak ako maximálnou transparentnosťou zmluv, ktoré štát uzatvára.
Excellent. Thank you so much. What an innovative approach. I just want to clarify to make sure I understood. It's the case that any individual Slovak citizen would be able to sue a company for failing to disclose beneficial ownership information. Is that right?
Register partnerov verejného sektora bude viesť alebo registrovať súd, jeden súd na Slovensku. A áno, či už občan, alebo mimovládna organizácia, alebo novinári, pokiaľ zhromaždia dokumenty, z ktorých bude vyplývať, že to, čo firma uviedla v registri, koho uviedla ako konečného užívateľa výhod, nie je pravdivé, tak áno, bude môcť dať podanie na súd, návrh, žalobu, akokoľvek to nazveme. A tá firma bude musieť pred súdom vlastne preukázať, že hovorila pravdu. A pokiaľ súd nepresvedčí, tak bude z registra vyškrtnutá, čo nie je trestný čin, ale nebude môcť obchodovať so štátom.
Wow, thank you very much. Certainly innovative and raising the game for other governments around the world. Let me turn to our non-governmental representatives here. Elena from Transparency International. Speaking of innovation, civil society also needs to innovate in order to just keep up the pace against corrupt actors. And I'm wondering, how do you think civil society can innovate and up its game in this fight against corruption?
Thank you so much, Mark, and thanks to everyone for being here. And I want to use this opportunity to send again on this International Anti-Corruption Day huge vibes of support to those our fellow colleagues who are working right now while we're sitting in this beautiful hall and who are fighting corruption, doing it in governmental sector, in private sector, in civil society, in media. They're doing a great job. And I'm definitely proud to sit near such champions on this panel in anti-corruption. But since the topic is our new commitments to the open partnership, I want to remind everyone that open cannot be without public participation. The word open is about open to somebody, meaning to public. And sometimes some governments consider open government is open to themselves, or even vice versa, they believe that it's about citizens should tell them more about themselves. So, but that should be reversed, and since we are kind of coming in the new age of it, we do see that civil society, media, and general public are demanding a greater transparency, and many governments are making a champion steps ahead of it. But still, we on our civil society side can do quite a lot, and we are maybe don't have too much to celebrate, but we do have things which we can be proud of, and we definitely, STI people, we are very proud to start a big project together with OCCRP, with journalists, with media consortium, which was created to bring together activists and media to further expand disclosure and investigation of grant corruption, which can lead to exposure of those people who are not used to be exposed. And I think it's quite an innovation, because grant corruption is something which sometimes sits at the outskirts of general anti-corruption. Everyone is talking about petty bribery, administrative corruption. When it comes to the impunity of grant corrupt, governments and countries and international community tends to hesitate, and we want to change it through the work of this consortium. Secondly, we are again starting to talk about establishing a proper thing, which used to be our very big domain, and Robin Hood is here, research and innovation hub. I mean, because we used to innovate. We have great innovations in Slovakia in public contracting. We have great innovations in Nigeria. We have great innovations here in France, in many, many countries, in Ukraine, Georgia. We just celebrated Prozore at the opening ceremony. There are innovations, but somehow people outside the world, outside these rooms, outside this building, don't know about it, and we need to bring together both substantive and technological innovations and to disseminate them among those countries which desperately need them. And third thing, which is extremely important, is as we talk quite extensively about public registers, public open registers of beneficiary ownership, we definitely need to think about bringing together OECD, FAT, and other organizations to start to talk about global public register of PEPs. because publicly exposed people should be also, I mean, their names and titles and maybe declaration of income and assets should be available for public to compare against public registers of beneficiary ownership. And to conclude, the years after the 9th of December 2003, when in Merida, in Mexico, the United Nations Convention Against Corruption was signed by countries, from 2003 till 2010, maybe 12, it was a decade of pledging to adopt a law. Let's make it sure that next decade is going to be about pledging to enforce the law. Because laws by themselves don't fight corruption. Letters, even nice letters, don't jump out of those books and start to catch corrupt people. You need proper hands, proper money, proper forces, proper people, proper governmental officials, proper civil society to enforce it. And if laws are not enforced, they're meaningful. So let's think about new commitment as a commitment of enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Let me turn to you, Andrew. We've heard a lot today and in the past few days about the importance of public disclosure of ownership information. Your company, Thomson Reuters, just launched a report with Transparency International's UK chapter on ownership in the London property market. Could you tell us a bit about that report and what you found?
Yeah, no, thank you. And there's some copies of the report around, I think, on some of the seats if people want to take a look at it. Gravity's working here. So we've heard a lot about...
Can I ask you to bring the mic just a little closer?
Yeah, we've heard a lot about the regulation and new laws that are being brought in many nations to fight corruption. So, and a lot of the onus of that enablement, as we've just heard, sits with businesses. There's a great expectation on businesses to do a big part in this. So we thought we would look at one of the challenges facing businesses in the London market, particularly as the next round of EU money laundering regulation comes in, that's particularly focusing on the real estate market, the property market. So we worked with our friends in Transparency International, and we asked our labs in London to do a piece of work starting back in February. And they pulled all of the records of property held by foreign organizations in London. And there's about 44,000 pieces of property in London that's held by private organizations, foreign organizations outside the UK. And in all, about 21,000 organizations own that 44,000 pieces of property. So that was an interesting start point. What we then started to look at was actually what could we find out about the holding? Who were the ultimate beneficial owners of these 21,000 or so organizations that held these properties? And 91% of those we could find no information on, nothing at all. And the reason was that those businesses were held in private, secretive areas such as Panama and the British Virgin Isles. So we have no visibility at all on who owns that property. And you'll find more in the report when you take a look at it. Some other background that might interest you, the average value of the property was about 2 million euros. We couldn't find value on a lot of the property, but where we could, the average was 2 million. And the highest value was about 100 million. We weren't sure whether this was all residential or commercial property. Now, the challenge here is that took us many months of work. We pulled 44,000 records. We compared it with databases of public companies all around the world. It was a very big piece of work. Now, if you put yourself in the position of a business trying to transact a property, a lawyer, an accountant, a real estate agent, the cost and the effort of doing this is huge. It's very difficult and probably with no great result. And the key here is that, of course, none of this information is public. It's all held privately. So to the topic here, the big challenge for businesses is how do we find and how do we get transparency on who actually owns things, who owns property? Because if you want to launder money, and the money from corruption has to be laundered, property is a really good way of doing it.
Thanks very much. Can I just a quick follow-up on that? My understanding is that much of the data was private, but you did use some open source data.
Yeah, we used a lot of open source data.
Can you just kind of run through what was open, what was?
Yeah, so sources. We started with the Land Registry of England and Wales. So that's where we got our basic 44,000 foreign-held properties. We then used some offshore leaks data, which I'm sure many are aware of, which our colleagues at Transparency also helped us with. And there's about 55,000 companies, trusts, and foundations in that data.
This is the Panama Papers database.
That's the Panama Papers and the BVI data as well. We then used an open database of corporates, and there's about 110 million organizations across about 115 jurisdictions in that database. So that gives us the other side of the equation. That tells us all about the publicly held data. And then we use some of our own data to also look at where property was held by politicians. And actually, as a follow-up point, about 1,000 of the properties were held by politicians or close associates of politicians.
Okay, and to Elena's point, the information on politically exposed persons, do you know where that came from?
Yes, so that's one of our own aggregated data sources, a database called WorldCheck. It comes from whenever there's an election in the world, we track all the new politicians, and there's a definition called politically exposed person. So that also then includes close associates, so close family members, maybe advisors in some cases as well.
And is that publicly available, that
no,
database?
It's not public. The underlying data is publicly available, but the database itself is not, because we comply with the privacy regulations in the EU, and there's obviously personal data in there. So we only hold it for very specific reasons, and that's for the prevention of financial crime. So it cannot be made publicly available in that way.
Thank you for that clarification. Let me go back to Minister Sapin, if I may. I understand that the Constitutional Court in France has recently invalidated key parts of a couple of relevant pieces of legislation. One on the provision on beneficial ownership for trusts, and more recently, the country-by-country financial reporting requirement. I'm wondering your thoughts on those decisions and whether you think they will influence the larger European Union negotiations on both those topics.
Merci. D'abord, la Cour constitutionnelle a validé la plupart des dispositions de la loi qui a été votée très récemment. Elle a donc participé avec les parlementaires à la construction d'un édifice solide permettant de lutter contre la corruption, qui mette plus de transparence, en particulier dans le domaine des lobbies. Il y a des registres qui permettent de connaître exactement qui sont les lobbyistes, qui ils voient, quels sont les arguments, quel est l'argent dont ils disposent. Et puis il y a aussi une disposition à laquelle j'attache beaucoup d'importance, qui est la protection des ceux qui donnent l'alerte, des lanceurs d'alerte, qui sont des gens absolument indispensables, qu'il faut évidemment protéger compte tenu des risques qu'ils prennent et qui sont vraiment d'une efficacité extraordinaire pour lutter contre un certain nombre de situations anormales, tout particulièrement dans le domaine de la corruption. Je dis ça parce que globalement, la Cour constitutionnelle a été dans le même sens que la volonté gouvernementale et parlementaire. Il y a évidemment deux dispositions qui ont été annulées, l'une il y a quelques semaines et l'autre hier soir, sur la transparence des bénéficiaires effectifs des trusts, d'un côté, que j'avais décidé, mise en place, et une personne concernée a porté plainte devant la Cour constitutionnelle et a obtenu satisfaction, et d'autre part, ce qu'on appelle le rapport pays par pays public, country by country reporting, qui a lui-même été annulé hier par le Conseil constitutionnel. Ce que j'en tire comme conséquence, c'est que, compte tenu des règles constitutionnelles françaises, il faut passer par l'Europe. Donc nous avons besoin de construire au niveau européen des dispositifs juridiques de cette nature. Et donc c'est au niveau européen, et c'est la position de la France, que nous devons nous battre, d'une part, pour qu'il y ait la transparence sur les bénéficiaires effectifs des trusts, et d'autre part, pour qu'il y ait l'obligation de ce reporting pays par pays pour les grandes entreprises concernées. C'est la bataille qui est actuellement en cours, qui avance, où il y a aussi des obstacles. D'abord parce qu'il y a des pays qui peuvent ne pas être favorables, et en particulier la Grande-Bretagne n'y est pas favorable au niveau européen, et d'autre part parce qu'il peut y avoir des obstacles juridiques aussi, là encore. Mais c'est un combat pour nous qui est absolument déterminant. Ce que nous ne pouvons pas faire par la voie française, nous devrons pouvoir le faire par la voie européenne.
Thank you very much for that. Maybe I'll turn this question to the other two ministers I have here. And what do you see as the main challenges or the primary things that you're worried about in terms of implementing the reforms you described earlier? We start with you, Mr. Ahmed.
Yeah, okay. Anti-corruption has a lot to do with enforcement, but also prevention. If the concentration is on enforcement alone, without looking at prevention, then we will be missing out on a lot. In addition to our anti-corruption drive, we also are pushing fiscal transparency because the two have to go side by side. And there are a number of measures that we've taken. There are some things maybe that are taken for granted in some countries, but in some of our countries, it's not always that you have government financial information on an electronic database. So we have a government integrated financial management information system that is able to, that we're able to use to track revenues and expenditure. We also have put in place a single treasury account system that gives us a single view of all the monies that government is generating and all the movement of funds. We also have, through the banking system, be able to have bank verification numbers that is enabling us to follow the money, because wherever the transaction takes place, you are able to identify exactly who does the transaction. We have been able to put our payroll, government payroll, on an integrated platform. Prior to that, we used to have a payroll that you can't really ascertain whether the workers you're paying are real workers. And since we did that, we have been able to do a lot of savings as a result. Since we signed up to OGP, we have been able to send a whistleblowers Act proposal to the Parliament, and that is a process that is ongoing. There's also an anti-money laundering act that is before the Assembly that we're trying to push for its realization. But having said that, the challenges we have in our environment is how to properly set up a beneficial ownership register. Because like was explained in the UK, it's a very complex process. You have to check several levels, including going through several jurisdictions. And it requires a lot of resources as well as a lot of expertise. But in whatever shape or form, we're going to start it and continue to improve it as we go forward. And another challenge we have is in establishing public registers of contracts. We do have existing contracts that have some confidentiality provisions. So that is something we have to address legally. Otherwise, we may just have to start by doing some reductions and not being able to disclose everything. So there are some things that we have to grapple with in trying to set these processes up.
Okay, thanks. So some significant technical and resource barriers or challenges for you. Minister Zitnianska, same question for you.
Rozumiem a rozmýšľam zároveň. Ja myslím, že na implementácii akéhokoľvek antikorupčného opatrenia sú absolútne kľúčové inštitúcie a ich fungovanie. A myslím, že aspoň naša skúsenosť hovorí to, že opatrenie, ako bolo napríklad zverejňovanie zmluv, ktoré nie je závislé na tom, aby bolo vykonané nejakou štátnou inštitúciou, pretože Na Slovensku sme zverejňovanie zmluv nastavili tak, že zmluva so štátom je účinná, až keď je zverejnená. A ďalej v zásade ten systém funguje na báze verejnej kontroly. A to je mechanizmus, ktorý nie je, alebo z väčšej časti nie je závislý na fungovaní štátnej inštitúcie a funguje sám o sebe. A pokiaľ ide o... Preto aj naše opatrenia proti schránkovým firmám sme postavili na tom princípe, že tú ťarchu dokazovania, kto je konečný užívateľ firmy, znáša samotná firma a keď je podozrenie, povedzme zo strany tretieho sektora alebo od ktoréhokoľvek obyvateľa Slovenska, tak opäť ona sama musí obhájiť svoju pozíciu a svoju pravdu. Pretože to je mechanizmus, ktorý vytvára ten verejný tlak a verejnú kontrolu. Takže to najťažšie na akýchkoľvek protikorupčných opatreniach podľa mojej mienky je budovanie fungujúcich inštitúcií, lebo v konečnom dôsledku to je o ľuďoch a o dobrých ľuďoch, ktorí pôsobia v tých inštitúciách. A opakujem, verejná kontrola je tá, ktorá vlastne vytvára ten tlak práve na tieto inštitúcie.
I see. Great. Well, thank you for that. I see that we have just under 7 minutes left, so I'd like to turn to the audience and give you a chance to ask some questions. Why don't we start right back here in the middle, assuming we have some microphones back there. Do we have a microphone for him? No?
Shall I?
Oh, you go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see. We'll start here and then yeah.
My name is David McNair from the One campaign. So it's a question for Minister Sapin. Congratulations on the bill, Sapin 2. And I was really delighted to hear your commitment to extend public beneficial ownership requirements for companies and trusts across the EU. These negotiations are difficult, so I wanted to ask what you're doing to try and win the support of other member states, particularly Italy, Germany, and other countries that we need the support of to win this EU legislation.
Great. Let me, if I may, ask for a couple more questions before we turn to you all for responses. Let's see if we can get you one just to make sure that it's translated for everyone.
No? Excuse me. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. My name is Daniel Freund. I'm from Transparency International. Two very brief questions. One was already a bit pointed at by the One Foundation, also to say on the lobby register, congratulations that you're introducing one in France. How much will this also now impact on your position in the European Union to get a mandatory lobby register at the EU level as well? The second question for the minister from Slovakia. It's great that all these public contracts are out in the open. We have seen these last few weeks, however, that there is a few exceptions to that rule, and a young woman, very brave, 26-year-old, came forward with some irregularities, let's say, on contracts on the presidency in the EU. So how are you going to address these exceptions that still exist to the general rule? Thanks.
Great, and let's take one more question right here.
Okay. Buenos días. Mi nombre es Reinaldo Castro Melgarejo. Vengo de Papantla, Veracruz, México. Yo soy autor de un libro que se llama Transparencia en el origen y destino de los recursos públicos desde los municipios para consolidar la gobernabilidad democrática. En esto propongo justamente lo que decía la ministra, perdón si no recuerdo el origen del país, en cuanto a la prevención. Yo propongo el combate preventivo de la corrupción desde los municipios. Desde un ejemplar le regalé a la señora Huguet Label en una ocasión que estuvo en México. Quiero felicitar al ministro de Francia porque hoy se publica que el ex ministro de Presupuesto habrá de pagar y rendir cuentas por un supuesto fraude, que es ejemplo para nosotros de lo que es ir en serio hacia los compromisos. Creo que estamos en una etapa de incertidumbre muy fuerte. Lo que podamos hacer desde esta plataforma de la alianza nos ayudará porque estamos frente a una incertidumbre ante el fracaso del consenso de Washington, el fracaso del acuerdo de la ONU en contra de la corrupción en 2003 que exponía la representante de Transparencia Internacional. Entonces creo que podemos construir desde esta plataforma un Estado transparente y un mercado transparente que nos puede llevar a un nuevo orden económico mundial antes de un regreso sin sentido de un proteccionismo que desestabilizaría más a todas las naciones. Gracias.
Thank you very much for that commentary. Why don't I turn to the ministers because the questions seem to be focused on you. Whoever would like to start, Minister Sapin? Okay.
J'y vais très court pour laisser à chacun bien sûr le temps de répondre. D'abord, merci à ceux qui ont eu la gentillesse d'adresser des félicitations. Vous savez, quand on est au gouvernement, il y a souvent beaucoup de critiques, c'est légitime. Il y a très peu de félicitations, donc je suis particulièrement sensible à vos félicitations. Deux questions qui reviennent au fond au même. Qu'est-ce que l'on peut faire au niveau européen? Est-ce qu'on peut être au fond plus efficace en agissant au niveau européen qu'on ne peut l'être dans chacun de nos pays? D'un certain point de vue, oui, mais ça ne doit pas exonérer chacun des pays de leurs responsabilités. Donc, chaque pays doit pouvoir, au maximum de ce qu'autorisent ses lois, et en particulier sa constitution, mettre en place des mécanismes de transparence. C'est ce que nous faisons avec la transparence sur les lobbies, c'est ce que nous avons essayé de faire au maximum s'agissant des informations données sur les trusts ou sur les activités des grandes entreprises. Deuxième chose, la bataille au niveau européen nous permet d'être à plusieurs, d'être plus efficaces, parce que tous les mouvements sont des mouvements transnationaux. La mondialisation, elle fait que l'argent circule à toute vitesse partout, et donc ça ne sert à rien de vouloir être tout beau, tout propre dans un seul pays. On est tout sale aux bordures, et à la fin, on redevient sale très, très rapidement. Et donc le niveau européen est indispensable. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait au niveau européen? Vous parliez des Italiens, des Allemands, etc. Nous travaillons beaucoup avec... il y a une initiative, il n'y a pas longtemps, de 5 grands pays, qui sont les 5 grands pays, la Grande-Bretagne, l'Allemagne, la France, l'Espagne et l'Italie, qui avaient pris une initiative au niveau de l'ONU, et du G20 et de l'ONU. C'est ça qui a permis d'avancer. Quand les grands pays européens se mettent ensemble, ça pèse. Ça pèse en Europe, évidemment, mais ça pèse aussi dans le monde. Ça pèse et même énormément dans le monde. Donc il faut qu'on continue de cette manière-là. La Commission a fait des propositions. Quand la Commission fait des propositions, nous devons en débattre. Nous en débattons. Et quand ces propositions sont bonnes, elles vont dans le sens de ce que vous souhaitez, celle de la Commission. Je les soutiens. La France les soutient et cherche à faire en sorte qu'il y ait, comme on dit ici, une coalition des grands pays pour emporter la conviction de l'ensemble. C'est ce que je continuerai à faire au moins pendant 5 mois.
Great. Thank you so much. And that means our time is just about up, but I would like to give Minister Zhitnyanska a chance to respond.
Veľmi krátko ja zareagujem. Áno, aj tie najtransparentnejšie právne predpisy sú niekedy porušované, ale rozdiel medzi minulosťou a dneškom je v tom, že sa tie dokumenty nedajú skovať na veky a že ten politik, ktorý jednoducho nechce sa chovať transparentne, tak na to doplatí svojim politickým kreditom.
Thank you so much. Elena, 30 seconds.
Yeah, just less than 30 seconds. Talking about OGP commitments and hearing about all that great work, let's don't forget about those countries which are important and which are sometimes are sources of corruption, and try to bring civil society and governments of those countries on board, because it cannot be the island of integrity within OGP. There should be like bigger community, and I think we need to all work hard in the coming years to bring more countries to OGP and beyond, because without them on board, even in prevention or enforcement, we cannot progress further on.
Thank you. That's an important call to action for us to end on. Please join me in thanking this distinguished panel today. Thank you so much for taking time in your busy schedules to join us. And please, everyone, enjoy the rest of Anti-Corruption Day and the rest of the OGP Summit. Let me make a quick plug for a meeting of the Anti-Corruption Working Group today at 4:15 in the Hôtel de Collectionnaire in the Car de Patio room. See you there.